Okay, Algebra 2, Lesson 83. Moving right along. Let's do this.
Flack math! Give me some math and I'll give you some flack. Flack math!
All right, Lesson 83. Here's what we're doing. We are writing quadratic equations from the roots. Okay, so normally when we're given a quadratic equation, we find the roots, but this time we're given the roots and we have to find the equation. So we're going backwards. Very typical of algebra. Okay, so we're gonna find the roots. So do you remember our zero property? Zero property says if AB equals 0, then A equals 0 or B equals 0, or actually both could equal 0. So that's how we were able to say that, like, for example, x minus 3, x plus 2 equals 0. One of these has to be 0, so x equals 3 or negative 2, right? So now we're gonna go backwards. So the converse of the zero property says this: if A equals 0 or B equals 0, then AB equals 0. Okay? So let's start with example 1, and this is a two-part one, so this is 1A. So I want to write a quadratic equation, but the roots are given to me. The roots are -3 and 5. Okay? So remember what we did. The last thing we did was look to see which x would make this 0. So we're going to go backwards. So let's write our parentheses, and we have to determine what those parentheses are going to be if -3 would make this 0 and 5 would make this 0. Well, if it was x plus 3, -3 would make this parenthesis 0, and 5 would make this parenthesis 0. Okay? So this is technically your quadratic equation, but we're gonna make it look pretty. We're gonna put it in standard form. To do that, we're gonna FOIL it out. So remember, f is x times x, or first x squared. All right, and then we're gonna do x times -5, so that's -5x. That's our outside term. Then we're gonna do our inside term, positive 3x. And then we're gonna do our last term, -15. All right, combine like terms, and you get x squared minus 2x minus 15 equals 0. Okay, we can check it if you want. Plug in -3 here. Let's see, -3 would be a 9 minus -6 minus 15. Chicken scratch that, bok bok. 9 plus 6 is 15, minus 15 is 0, check. Plug in 5 there, 5 squared minus 2 times 5, minus 15, so that's 25 minus 10 minus 15 equals 0, check. You could also plug it into your graphing calculator. So let's go to our graphing calculator and try it. Y equals x squared minus 2x minus 15, and look where the roots are. They cross at -3 and they cross at 5. It works. All right, so let's try example 1B. Here's what 1B says. The roots are -4 and 1. Okay, and then we want to write 3 equations. All right, well, let's just write one equation the way we just learned it first, and then we can figure out how we can write multiple equations. Okay, so that means our equation looks like this. X plus 4 times x minus 1 equals 0, because a -4 would make this parenthesis 0, and a positive 1 would make this parenthesis 0. Okay, so FOIL it out. We get x squared minus x plus 4x minus 4 equals 0. So combine those terms, x squared plus 3x minus 4 equals 0. Well, you can do whatever you want to this equation and it would still be the same equation, right? So let's just multiply everything by 2. So if you multiply everything by 2, Whatever you do to one side, do to the other. That's nice because you're always going to have a 0 on the other side. So this is 2x squared plus 6x minus 8 equals 0. Well, let's multiply everything by 3, and you get 3x squared plus 9x minus 12 equals 0. Okay, so here's our 3 equations. This one, and this one. They all work. Nice. All right, let's do example 2. This time we're only given one root, and it's 6. Okay, but it's a quadratic equation, we know that. So here's what's happening. That 6 is appearing twice. So technically, this is a root of 6 with multiplicity of 2. Okay? Technically, it could be a multiplicity of 3 or 4, I guess. But since it's a quadratic equation, there's only going to be 2 roots at the most. Okay? So FOIL it out. You get x squared minus 6x plus 36 equals 0. So x squared minus 12x plus 36 equals 0. Boom. Cool. All right, 2b says this. The root is -2. And then I want to write 3 equations again. Okay, so that means our basic equation is x plus 2 times x plus 2 equals 0. So that's just x squared plus 4x plus 4 equals 0. All right, well, let's write 2 more equations. Double each side and we get 2x squared plus 8x plus 8 equals 0. Triple each side and you get 3x squared plus 12x plus 12 equals 0. It doesn't have to be 2 and 3. You can multiply by any number or a negative number or a fraction, whatever you want. And you would have 3 equations. All right, well, that's all fine and dandy because those are nice, pretty roots, okay? Well, what happens if you're given a complex root? So let's say our roots are 3 plus 2i and 3 minus 2i. All right, I'm not afraid of that. Let's do this. So this kind of looks like this. We ended up with an answer where it said x equals 3 plus or minus 2i, right? Because that's 3 plus 2i, 3 minus 2i. So first step, let's just write this as 1, 3 plus or minus 2i, okay? Now what is the last thing that you did to get there when you solved by completing the square? Well, you brought this 3 over, right? You brought that 3 over there, so it used to look like this. X minus 3 equals plus or minus 2i. So when you bring that -3 over, it becomes a positive 3, okay? Well, this happened because you took the square root of something. Well, what something did you take the square root of? Well, let's rewrite that as a square root. Well, the square root of -4 is 2i. Because remember, when you take the square root of a negative, you just pull the I out, ouch, and you take the square root of 4, which is 2. So that's what that looks like. All right, and then what did we do before that? What was the last thing we did before that? Well, we square rooted both sides, so let's square both sides. So let's square both sides, and what do you get? You get x minus 3 equals -4. Okay, FOIL it out. X squared minus 6x plus 9 equals -4. Get 0 on one side, so let's bring that 4 over here. Just add 4 to both sides, and we get x squared minus 6x plus 13 equals 0. Boom, that works. Cool. All right, let's try 3b. 3b says write 3 equations with roots 3i and -3i, okay? Well, let's write it like this first. X equals plus or minus 3i. All right, let's write it as a square root plus or minus the square root of, let's see, that I becomes a negative and that 3 becomes a 9, okay? All right, there's nothing to bring over to that side, so we're just gonna square both sides. X squared equals -9. Okay, bring the -9 over. X squared plus 9 equals 0. There's our quadratic equation. Let's write 2 more equations. Let's double it. 2x squared plus 18 equals 0. We could even multiply by a negative number. Let's multiply by -1. Negative x squared minus 9 equals 0. That works too. That's basically lesson 83. That's not too bad, because you've learned it forward, so most of the time when you learn something backwards that you've already learned forward, it's not too bad. All right, now you know it backwards and forwards. That's impressive. Well done. All right, we'll do lesson 84 next, because 84 comes after 83. That's a freebie. You're welcome.
Flack!